All right, so here's my trade review on SPY. So a couple things. I did not trade well. I did not execute my trade plan or manage my trade well. However, I did all the work in terms of finding the levels, finding the ideas, figuring out kind of what it could do, etc. Just couldn't quite get it done. And here's some of the stuff that I learned from today, which is some good stuff here. So it will be a good day for me. But basically, I got short here at this higher time frame level, and this basically is a range trade, range resistance. We're going to break down, we're going to pull back, and we had a nice level within the last day and a half. Price couldn't break it, did a double top, whatever kind of reversal pattern you like to see, but in this case, tested it twice. I got in pretty tight, which probably made me a little bit nervous, only risked about 21 cents here, but I wrote down, I put here, and this was after the fact, but this is what I'm going to start putting, which is now I know this works, or I'm going to put a text note that says this is when I knew it was starting to work in my favor, doing what I thought it was. And so when I put that, that's almost basically like a reason to hold. So I'm going to work on criteria for managing these trades and holding on and partialing, etc. However, this is one kind of unique thing that I'm going to add, which is kind of see it signs or just signs in the trade when it is going in my direction, making a leg down or a leg up in my direction, sort of like a mini confirmation. And when that happens, I need to then back off, at least for now. I mean, in the future, maybe that will mean that, okay, it is going in my direction, where can I add in? But I think the where can I add in is a little bit too ahead of me for right now, because I'm having trouble even holding on to a really good entry. I'm either partialing too quickly or I'm adding in too quickly. So for right now, it's more about I'm going to add these notes that tell me, hey, it is working, and then I hold, and then maybe it does something, and then it works even more. So there's like a second small confirmation. So I'm going to put again, hey, now I know this works. And so then what will happen is, I'll continue to sort of look left and look at the higher time frame and look at those larger levels. I can still stick with my initial target. So for what I'm getting at is, this is a higher time frame level, and I kind of put this little box because this is more like a zone. This 437 was like the last bit of resistance here, because the last few days we had, you can see here it did reach 437, but then we had a kind of a triple top over the whole day, which kind of got to about this high. So to me, it's a zone up here. So I got in pretty tight, thinking that would hold, and because it held, and because I got in tight, my target for at least some partialing was the low of the day, generally, maybe even a little break of it, kind of like it did. So I partialed right before low of the day, it flushed through, and I partialed again. That's fine. But then I started to feel like, okay, a bigger move is happening, or is setting up right here. But then because it kind of went against me, I thought, now it's back in this range, it's not going to do what I thought, or whatever. So I just wanted to cover some and take my profit. So I profited 50% there. Okay, that's where I'm like, it is what it is. If you want to do that, okay, but don't sabotage yourself further after that, which is what I did, because then I added in twice as it got back down. Another thing that I'm doing is I'm really going over the strength of the levels. So what is the strength of this level? Well, to me, this was a 10 out of 10, meaning it's a very big higher time frame inflection level. A lot of players are shorting it or longing it above it, meaning Price gets above it, holds for a certain period of time, I feel like it's a nice long, and that would be considered a breakout. It'd be a breakout of this indecision day. If price stays below it, we only have one way to go, which is down, and then I use the ATR to tell me generally how far down will it go from this level. And the ATR today was around $5.50, give or take some. But so this was a 10 out of 10 level. Now, where I partialed initially, this level was not a 10 out of 10. It was basically just low of day. And sure, when price flushed down through, you got some VPA confirmation, but that's really only confirming the stops that are in place for these shares, for these players. So of course you'd get some VPA, which is good, but it's not a big level. So there aren't big players specifically looking at this low of day level. If there was, I would zoom out and I would see it, but I wasn't seeing that. And sure, maybe this level was something, you know, maybe you can see how there was some resistance for, 2 hours yesterday right here. Price couldn't get above, couldn't get above, and then eventually it ripped above. So yeah, you can say it meant something. And you line that up with low of day, you can give it some strength, but only enough strength to partial some. And that's what I did. But when I'm playing a range trade, the idea is to play the range, and the range was $5.50, and this had only moved $1, barely $1.50, maybe less. So we had a whole 75% to go, 75% more move. We had, most of the day to go. It was 10 a.m. So it's okay to partial there at your low of day level, but it's not the higher time frame level, so it's not the higher time frame core target. And so my goal then is to when I partial some, that's the partial, that's the profit. Like that's what I'm getting. If my goal is to go from is to range trade and hold this trade for a longer move. If my goal is to go from here to, we can say ATR, but let's just say at least yesterday's low, which is here. That's, half of ATR. If my goal is to do that, well, then I need to hold the majority of the shares to get that move. And I need to tell myself that within that move, there is going to be some weird action. This is the area where you don't read into the tape very much. You don't read into VPA. And you know what? If there is something, a bid that gets hit and it rips all the way up, well, then so be it. I mean, that is what you need to let happen, because I know from trading day in and day out that this move will happen most of the time. Matter of fact, I know that the majority of the move will happen about this far, because this is ATR. This is the average range. This is the statistics. This is the back testing. This ATR is proven. It's said in a 14-day average, price is moving this much. So if you're at a 10 out of 10 level and it can't break it and it double tops and you get in there, the longer that you're in it, the longer that I'm in it, the more that this level is doing what I think it is, meaning price can't get above it. And so we revert to the averages, which is this price needs to move, and it can only move down, and it's going to move its ATR down. So it's just as plain and simple as that. You have a good level, which I've learned to find through back testing. I have my ATR. I got in a tight entry, but even on a wide entry, it doesn't matter. You trust the law of averages here, and so yeah, I partial sum at this level, but I got to leave that position or some position for here, and that's what it did. It eventually hit 434 and even flushed through it. So I put multiple, now I know this works, moments. I put, the first one was where it really flushed, and on the tape you could see a bunch of big block orders coming in. and then it consolidated and then flushed again down to low of day and even past it. So that was another see it moment. So both of those were moments where I'm like, I almost need to take my hands off the keyboard, hands off the mouse, and just say, okay, let's just look at the higher time frames and build some targets and some ideas. But I'm not touching this fucker, because this is doing exactly what I want. Sure, we all want it to go like that in 2 minutes, hits our target, we're done, right? We love that, but that's not how it works, right? There's all these players in here, and this battling, but you do all the work to find the higher time frame level. You better be damn sure you need to hold and take advantage of that. You know, all that energy and capital, mental capital I'm using to figure this out, I need to hold on to it. So these now I know this works moments are just, these need to ease me. They need to give me reasons to hold. They need to allow me to stop partialing and hold on to shares. So even here, we hit yesterday's low, we flushed through it, and it comes above. Okay, well, that could totally be a reason. I could have partialed at the flush down, or it came through and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna wait, and then it flushes back up, and then I can partial, which is kind of what I did here. I partialed right before the low of day, it flushed through. I partialed a little bit more, but I wanted a bigger partial, but I thought if it came down and capped back into this middle range here, that it, you know, I don't know, I guess I just thought it might come back up. So I got out of some, and you know what, that's fine. It is what it is. You do that, yeah, you lose this bigger move, but you got such a good RVR there. I think with all of those 3 partials, I think I made 4 or 5 R just on that, and I still had shares. So it just shows you that you can, you know, I could have squeezed way more out of it if I would have just waited, or I could have not partial 50% and then done it down here. So but my process is, I'm going to work on telling me when to do that. And you know, for an intraday range trade, the majority of the shares or that core needs to be held from here all the way down to yesterday's low, and then probably another majority of them need to be for the ATR, or some process to where it reaches a certain point in its ATR, and then I immediately put a trailing stop on it. That way I make sure that I do profit on it even when it pulls back. So that's all it needs to be. That's all it needs to do. So yeah, so you know, got in, got out, got flustered. This was actually paper trading. I was actually messing with some hotkey stuff here, but so that doesn't count. Yeah, I definitely butchered it right in here, and but I'm gonna learn from this. And I'm trying to think of what else I was going to say. Oh yeah, so things that I'm going to start working on. So I'm going to make another video about that. So that was my review of SPY trade, range resistance, which ended up sort of transforming into a breakdown trade as well, which I can go over that really quick. It was this was a range trade, which means that it stayed within, stayed within this resistance level and went down to the bottom of yesterday and then to the bottom of 2 days ago. But then what had happened was, as it was making its way down, broke yesterday's low and then broke 2 days ago's low, which I think was this one, all by 11:30, right? So we still had a huge part of the day to go. During this whole time, RVOL was increasing. So RVOL was somewhere like at 70% up here. And then by the time we got to down here, we were like in the mid 90s, I think, maybe more. So that's a big increase in RVOL. That's a big sign that's just a sign of more potential. More volume means more compression, means more strength. So, you know, that just means the severity and the strength of it going down is getting stronger and stronger the more it goes down, the more players are getting involved. So, and that's what happened. It ended up just busting through 2 days ago's low and then continued and got all the way to a week ago's low, which was on really high volume, ended up getting all the way down to it. So ended up moving We ended up moving like an ATR and a half after it was all said and done, or ATR 1 1/3. So, it was a range trade to here, and then to the other part of the range right here. You combine that with an ATR. It was a range trade with an added bonus of breaking out for the second half of the day and getting another move down, which with even more volume, which made it a breakdown play. So you kind of got best of both worlds here had you known what you were doing, which I did, but I didn't. So yeah. All right.